Good evening. Welcome to the Kelly Wright Show on the Black News Channel. Coming up tonight, the escalating number of missing black girls in America is reaching epidemic proportions. An estimated 64,000 black girls are reported missing. The coronavirus was first reported from Wuhan, China on New Year's Eve. Since then, the deadly disease continues to spread to other countries, causing fear of a major outbreak. And this is 2020. The year of the census in the United States. Plus, we're in a pivotal presidential election season. Both issues are important matters of concern to the Congressional Black Caucus. We'll be talking about that as well. Also joining me tonight are the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. But first, a brief commentary on how meaningful it is for my show to be part of the history-making Black News Channel. We're operating out of the National Press Club today in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We are literally steps away from the Willard Hotel where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote the finishing touches on his famous speech delivered in August 1963 during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. It was his I Have a Dream speech. And just about a mile from here is the Martin Luther King Memorial, where his statue overlooks the tidal basin. On the statue is an excerpt of Dr. King's speech, or sermon, I should say, entitled The Drum Major Instinct. He delivered that sermon at his church 2 months before his assassination in Memphis on April 4th, 1968. It's fitting to launch our first show in paying homage to what Dr. King stated in that sermon. He said he was a drum major for justice, a drum major for peace, and a drum major for righteousness, and all the other shallow things will not matter. And that is why we're here. No doubt you've heard about the coronavirus and you're concerned about it. Will it spread to your neighborhood? We want to knock down all the myths and get right to the facts. And to do that, here in Washington, D.C., we've come over to PAHO, better known as the Pan American Health Organization, which is the regional office for the WHO, the World Health Organization. Now, PAHO deals with a lot of diseases and illnesses that break out in Latin America and the Caribbean. But to talk about the coronavirus and to educate us on this topic is Dr. Marcos Espinal. And thanks for joining us to talk about this very alarming situation that's unfolded stemming from the Wuhan province in China. Let's start with what is the coronavirus?
Pleasure to be with you. Coronavirus is a new virus of the respiratory system, lungs, trachea, and respiratory airways. And it's a virus that is transmitted by droplets belongs to a family of coronaviruses. It's a new one because coronaviruses are not new. They exist. And the most typical examples are the SARS epidemic and the MERS epidemics. They are viruses that live in bats, animals, civet cats, and so on. And they have the characteristic that they jump from species to species.
Yeah, and SARS and MERS, we remember the deadly outbreak with those particular situations, and we're finding that the coronavirus has indeed caused some fatalities. What should we do to protect ourselves and safeguard the public?
Well, basically, there are measures that the governments can do and actions that the public can take. For the public, it's important to do cough etiquette. So if a person is coughing, he needs to use its recommended elbow like this, flex it, so to avoid transmitting to others. The most important measure is also hand wash.
Hand wash.
With soap and water. And make sure that we always, when we say hello to someone, we have our hand wash it, because we can avoid transmission of that to other people.
What do we do for making sure that people are not alarmed about the coronavirus coming to America? We know that it's hit certain states in the United States. Some people have been diagnosed with it. What's the prognosis for treating it?
Well, we know, because we are learning every day of this new virus, is that 99% of the cases are in China, which is a good sign because it means we haven't seen outbreaks in the United States and Canada. We have some cases, but all of them link to China.
To China.
So this is a good positive sign. The other good sign is that most of the cases are mild or moderate, 80% of the cases. And those who die of the disease are people with higher than 60 years of age that has other conditions like hypertension, diabetes, and heart problems and so on. The key issue for countries to prevent having outbreaks of the same type of China is enhanced surveillance, making sure they do the temperature taking at the airports like the United States are doing now, and has a good interview with people who fly to ensure that to find out if they have symptoms. Because sometimes they cannot, maybe they don't have fever or something like that, but if they were in China or have linkages with people that was in Wuhan, that's a sign to isolate the person and follow the person. If a disease breaks up, we need to isolate the person and investigate the contacts of these people that were, because that will cut completely the chain of transmission of the virus.
You are looking at images of black girls and women who have gone missing. They're missing at an alarming rate, so many of them missing on nearly a daily basis, and yet so little local, regional, or national attention is given to this matter. The Black and Missing Foundation published statistics recently from the FBI. Those findings reveal that nearly 243,000 individuals of color were reported missing here in the United States. Now, Black Americans only comprise 12% of the population. However, 36.7% of people in America are black teens under the age of 18 missing. And most of those teens are girls. Earlier, I interviewed Stacy Brown, reporter for the National Newspapers Publishers Association, Black Press USA, about his extensive chronicling and reporting on the plight of missing black girls.
This is a very serious topic. What do you know and what have you uncovered in your reporting about the magnitude of missing black girls?
Well, Kelly, we at NMPA, the Black Press of America, have been chronicling this story for a long time now. And what we're finding is extremely disturbing. At least 64,000 young black women and girls have gone missing and unaccounted for.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. 64,000.
64,000, you heard that number right. And that number, by the way, was as of May 2019. Here we are almost a year later.
Now, black women comprise, what, about 7% of the population throughout America?
Yes.
And yet you're saying 64,000 are
missing. Yep. And unaccounted for.
How is that possible, and why is that not a national call? Why is there no national call to alert or alarm about this problem?
It's a great question. One of the problems that we've encountered when we've been reporting this story is that obviously mainstream media does not report this story. They report the Elizabeth Smarts of the world, and that's fine. The Natalie Holloways of the world, and that's fine.
Stories that I've reported myself, those particular stories.
Exactly. But when it comes to our young black women, black girls, this story is totally overlooked. And part of that has to do also with law enforcement at the local and state levels, and even the federal government for that matter. When black girls go missing, immediately it's, well, perhaps they just had a moment. they needed to get away. It's just swept under the rug.
It's just mind-boggling to me that we have 64,000 missing black girls, and we don't see enough activity or response within the black community.
Let me read you a quote someone gave me, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
Phyllis G. Williams, she's the co-host of Living the Principles Onward. She's also a psychiatrist. She says, and she's quoting Malcolm X, "The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. And the most neglected person in America is the black woman." I think that really sums up why these girls go missing and no one seems to care except their immediate family and loved ones.
So what can we do about this problem so that we become the voice of missing black women and protect them and even teach ourselves how to protect them?
That's an outstanding question. I think number one, certainly the Black News Channel is going to be powerful in this. We have to keep this in front of the public. Just like Natalie Holloway was kept in front of the public, just like Elizabeth Smart was kept in front of the public. We have to do that. Number one, we have to, as black reporters, we have to be the voice of these voiceless. We have to be out there talking to law enforcement. We have to press law enforcement. We have to make them act.
When we return, we will continue to focus on this serious issue of missing black girls and women. We'll meet a woman who endured several life tragedies that led to her being among the missing. We are back now to continue our discussion and dialogue about missing black girls and women. My next guest is Beverly Smith Brown, who has an incredible life story of enduring trials and tragedies that would have caused most people to shrink in fear. But she found a way to overcome and turn her pain into power. Beverly, thank you for joining me. I should point out that you've written this wonderful book called He Kept Me.
Yes.
And of course, the book is basically an explanation of your life.
Yes, it is.
Take me, if you will, through the trials and tribulations that caused you so much consternation and difficulties in your early life.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me on the show.
Sure.
You know, growing up, I'm a native Washingtonian, number 8 of 9 children.
Wow.
Yes. Grew up in Southeast DC. My mom and dad was married. I was actually born on a military base, but I have no memory of that. They separated by the time I was 1 year old.
Okay.
My mom became a single mom, and in the 80s, when crack cocaine hit our community, it really hit my family hard. My mom started using crack cocaine as a coping method, and my sister and brother started selling crack to keep some of the money in the home. As time went on, you know, the community became accustomed to selling drugs. So either you were selling drugs or using it, or you were reaping the benefits of the money that was coming in.
So it became part of the culture.
It became part of the culture.
And how did that culture impact you to cause you to go missing?
Well, it started with boys. You know, you know, there were issues in the home. I had a boyfriend at the time. I thought that I was having issues at home, but I had no clue what I was running to when I ran at the age of 13.
So at 13, you ran away from home.
I ran. That was the first time I ran away.
That was the first time. You know that a lot of law enforcement will not go after missing girls in the black community because they often hear that it's a runaway situation. How many times did you run away? And at the time you were running away, did you ever realize that perhaps your mother was missing you and your family missing you, and the problems that it may or may not have caused for law enforcement?
Well, at the time, I didn't really look at it as running away. I just wanted to go over my boyfriend's house and came home when I wanted to. So it wasn't really like I was running away. I just didn't come home when I was supposed to. It wasn't really until I was maybe about 15 years old when I left and didn't come back. Because my family was dealing with a lot of different issues, it wasn't so much of a big issue with me leaving, so it was never reported. Like I said, my mom used crack cocaine as a coping method. She was an amazing mom. I lost my mom. She passed away 3 days after my 19th birthday. But she was an amazing mom and showed a lot of love. But I really believe it was things that she was dealing with in her life that kind of took away from, really kind of being concerned on what I was actually doing. Me and my sisters, because all of us, by the age of 16, I was pregnant. By 19, I had 3 children.
Wow. So all of this that you endured, you overcame because you began to turn your life around, and you went on to get your degree, and you have children that you're rearing and raising to be productive citizens. So why did you get involved in helping missing girls and women, and is the plight real?
Yeah, it really is. For me, it began with my own story. I felt as though what I was doing, I wasn't hurting anyone. I had no understanding at that time when I was doing it. As I grew older, I had 3 sisters who passed away before the age of 40. I had a cousin who I lost to AIDS. I watched her die slow from the AIDS disease. She refused to take her medicine and said that this disease is supposed to kill me while I'm not dead yet. So I literally saw people give up that went through the same thing that I went through. And I've never had an issue with school. So I did walk across, even though I had children at a young age, I graduated with my class with 2 youth and my 2 babies in the audience. So I never had an issue with school and getting jobs. So for me, I felt that if it was anyone who could relate to the youth and also have the articulation to express what they were going through, it would have to be me. So I felt it almost a burning desire. I couldn't do anything but that because I understood what it felt like to run. So that's where the passion really came from.
So Beverly, this is just a remarkable story, and the fact that you overcame, you actually give credit to your faith to help you overcome. But the problem still exists that we have missing black girls and women. Not all of them are runaways.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing your story and being so honest and bold and courageous to bring it to us and to our attention. So what are you doing now to help girls understand that they don't have to run away, and also to help families who really do have missing children? Right. How do you help them and bring them together to bring more attention and awareness to this problem?
Well, in 2014, I started a nonprofit called Mama Safe Haven. In Mama Safe Haven, we encourage self-love, higher education, and self-employment. So one of the things that we do is, being a native Washingtonian, we kind of are able to get into the homes and have a relationship. So it's really about building relationships with our youth and the families. So it's an understanding of you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't give what you don't have. So we really go into the homes, we build relationships with families who have, troubled youth, and we provide a safe space. So the safe space is conducive for our, our particular audience of the young girls and young boys who run and come up missing as well. So like you said, it's not all runaways. There is a demand on young vulnerable girls.
In terms of human trafficking?
In terms of human trafficking, and they also have, looking for organs. It's a lot of different variables as it relates to.
So you drill down on some important things, that human trafficking and the market value of human organs. These things do exist. And I have to commend you for getting involved in this. This is quite a difficult campaign you're waging. It's very challenging, and yet you're out there helping young girls break free from this, and even young boys. What are the girls saying to you, those who have survived running away, or those girls who have been abducted and returned to their home?
One in particular, she says that, she thought she knew this guy. You know, she met him on social media, and they did talk for a while on social media. And once she did meet him, she saw that he wasn't who he said he was, and she still continued to communicate with him due to the emotional connection that they had. And at first, she told me about the guy, and I was, you know, trying to work her through it, because one of the things we try to do is not to come too aggressive, because then they'll run from us, and we won't be able to get that inside information. But one of the things that we found out with that is it was an emotional thing that they were connecting to. And once she was able to find someone else to connect emotionally to, which was Mama Safe Haven and others in the program, she felt the strength to walk away. So she found out that it was something that she was missing, that the person tapped into. And so now she's on a fight to help others. So that's what we're looking to encourage these young women to be the change makers in our community, to be able to speak from a place of understanding and knowing and experiencing it themselves.
Beverly, an amazing story. The book is called He Kept Me, Beverly Smith, but more importantly, your Mama's Safe Haven that you've created is becoming a haven for our missing black girls and women and even boys. Anytime that we can help you here on the Kelly Wright Show, you are always welcome.
Thank you.
And God bless you for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you too.
Yes.
All right.
Would like to say one more thing,
Sure.
that we are looking to turn our Mama Safe Haven into a home where we can house our youth as well. So that's our future goal for Mama Safe Haven. And we're super excited about all of our partners that work with us to support us.
Well, we want to help. We
Thank
will
you.
definitely be seeking to help you. So be sure to keep bringing us updates on that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
you.
And the book is called He Kept Me. Make sure you get this book because it is a testament to your faith
Yes.
and your endurance. Thank you again.
No problem. Thank you.
Coming up after the break, the presidential race among Democrats continues to heat up as Iowa is now over and candidates continue to campaign before the New Hampshire primary. What are the concerns among members of the Congressional Black Caucus in this pivotal election year? An interview with Congresswoman Karen Bass, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. That's next. Welcome back as we continue now with our story on missing girls and missing black women. And joining me now is Ron Hampton, who is a retired police officer for the D.C. Metro Police. He served on the force for 24 years. Yes, sir. So you're joining us now to talk about this issue, missing girls and missing black women. What is the problem? Why is it something that law enforcement is criticized for?
Well, it's been a problem for a long time. I remember during my time, there was quite a few black women who were missing in the city, some who were involved in the, who were sex workers, and then some were just women out of the neighborhood. There was even a period of time in my career where they were calling the deaths of these women were suspicious, but also maybe as a result of what they call the freeway phantom. This was
freeway. Oh, I remember that story, the
yeah.
freeway phantom.
So I don't, but I know that there was never any closure to all of this, and then too, at that time, which I think is also some of the residue now, and that's this whole issue about black life. Unfortunately, women, but also men, doesn't have the kind of value when it comes to investigative resources and other things that are going on in our community.
That's a very interesting point. So, because many people are saying in the black community, well, the reason why you're not having a posse go after or joining the hunt for black women, black girls, or even black boys for that matter, is because black life is undervalued. Now, you as a law enforcement officer, you're saying that type of thinking does exist?
Well, it isn't the kind of overt mentality that you would think it would be, but it's always sort of just hanging around because, for example, when I was on the police force, I remember when a senator from, I think it was, his name might have been Senator Stinson or something like that, was from Tennessee, and he was leaving the Capitol on the way down East Capitol Street, and he got robbed. They called out the everything that they could call on the police department to try to hunt down and capture this person who robbed the senator at that time, and they did. When a police officer gets shot and killed, unfortunately, those kind of things happen. Then they call out the posse and all of the resources at that time. But when we see black individuals being shot and killed in the community, injured and or missing, we don't see those kind of responses. So I think it's an institutional thing, just like everything else we have, unfortunately, in America. There's race is a factor that's involved in it. And when we talk about responding for calls for service, when we talk about responding to what those particular incidents are, we sort of see a sort of laid back approach to those kind of things that happen. So it may not have been as overt as we think it would have been, but I think it's probably some institutional parts to it, and because of the system is designed the way it is.
I got to go, but final question. What should law enforcement be doing about the problem since there are 64,000 missing black girls and women?
Well, like everything else, when something becomes critical within law enforcement, then we prepare and initiate task force to look at the issues. And then we have people to come in to examine all of the components of the issue, begin to ask questions. A lot of the cold case files where we have excellent detectives are working on those kind of things because they want to get to the bottom of it. And we need to do more than just look at the factors, but then begin to examine trends and those kind of things. So all it's going to take is pouring some more resources into it, and depending on who it is and what kind of community it comes from, then we sort of see those things happening. So those same resources need to be developed to this issue of black women missing and deaths of black women in our community.
Ron Hampton, thank you for that very much, and hopefully members of law enforcement right now are paying attention, as well as the community. We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. Congresswoman Karen Bass is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. She is dedicated to leading the nation in a bipartisan fashion, working tirelessly with fellow Democrats and Republicans to work for the greater good of all Americans. But she is fiercely focused and determined to help black Americans gain more representation and equality in all aspects of American life. I recently went to Capitol Hill to meet the Congresswoman in her office to discuss her concerns about moving the country forward. With you now is Congresswoman Karen Bass. She is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Thanks for being on the debut of the Kelly Wright Show as well as the Black News Channel. It's a very exciting moment for us. As we look forward to what's happening this year, though, we're coming at a very critical time. And that is in terms of getting out the vote. How important is the black vote in this year's pivotal presidential election?
Well, I think the black vote is really going to be everything. And let me just say before I even answer that I'm very excited about the network. The Congressional Black Caucus did a 2-day summit over the last couple of days.
Indeed.
And several individuals got up and said, you know, there's nothing that we have that talks about black news. There's all kinds of different programs. And so I had an opportunity to talk about, we are soon going to have our own network. And the black vote is just absolutely critical. And you know what? The president knows it's very important too, which is why he is targeting the African American male vote. He wants to shave off about 2 to 3% of our vote. So if even the Republicans understand and the Democrats understand that the black vote is what is going to swing this election one way or another, it is critical that we register to vote and that we turn out. And you know, a number of states have gone out of their way to decrease our vote. by purging the rolls, which really means they take your voting card and throw it away, or they've reduced the number of polling places, they've reduced the number of days or the number of hours in which you can vote, and that's why voters are going to have to be very active. They're going to have a lot of the initiative on their own to find out, in my city, what does it take for me to vote? Do I come from an area where there's a voter ID? What is the ID requirement? Let me find out well in advance, so when it comes time to vote, even the barriers that they have put up to block us from voting, we will be able to overcome. No one knows the child welfare system like the foster youth who have grown up in the system.
Foster care, what can we do about it as the American people? How can we help you with that, especially on the Black News Channel, the Kelly Wright
Well,
Show?
first of all, I think understanding the issue and understanding that the reason children are removed from home is primarily due to neglect. It's not from physical abuse or sexual abuse. There is absolutely a percentage, but the vast majority is because of neglect, and the main reason for the neglect is because the parent has a mental illness, the parent is addicted to drugs, or the parent is so poor that they can't take care of the children. So what we are learning is, if that's the reason why we're taking kids away from their family, why don't we try to solve those three problems and keep the child with the parent?
My thanks to the Congresswoman for taking time out of her busy schedule to talk to me for the Kelly Wright Show. And Congresswoman Bass, you are welcomed anytime. Coming up next, we'll talk to Reverend Jesse Jackson about his concerns in moving America forward. Take a look around our nation and you can see that we are a country that is divided and we are an electorate that is undecided. The Congressional Black Caucus Political Action Committee recently presented the National Black Leadership Summit here in Washington. The event focused on what lies ahead for 2020 and encouraged African Americans to be more involved now more than ever. We attended the event and bumped into the Reverend Jesse Jackson in the crowded ballroom. I took the opportunity to sit down and talk to Reverend Jackson about his political concerns and beyond politics. So here on the Kelly Wright Show is a dear friend of mine, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. His daughter and I used to work together at another network, and it's good to have you, sir.
Good to see you, sir.
Love you. Love you. Tell me, what are the critical issues that we face for 2020 in terms of
The protected right to vote. The right to vote, and the vote must count. But also, whether it's WikiLeaks from Russia or WikiLeaks from Republicans, we cannot afford to have the vote tampered with. And last year, A&T, North Carolina A&T, for example, the campus was split in half in two congressional district gerrymandering. In 170, they moved the precincts 3 miles down the road. Manipulation of access to voting. And so while WikiLeaks is a big deal, TrickyLeaks by the Republicans is a deal as well. So nothing more from protecting everything proceeds from the right to vote.
My thanks to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and joining me now is my very good friend, the Reverend Dr. Benjamin Chavis. And Doc, it's always good to have you. We just heard Jesse reflect on his memories of Kobe Bryant. If you can comment as well, since we lost such a champion in the legendary basketball player Kobe Bryant.
Well, I agree with the sentiments of Reverend Jesse Jackson. Kobe Bryant's legacy now has to be protected, has to be extended. We pray for his wife and his family, the children who are left. It was a tragedy, not only for Black America, but for all of humanity. But when these things happen, those of us who still have life, it's our responsibility to keep his legacy alive, to raise up a new generation of Kobe Bryants.
And certainly he was involved in a lot of people beyond the basketball court. I want to turn our attention to what Reverend Jackson was talking about, as well as Congresswoman Karen Bass, in talking about the concerns they have for 2020 and the important black vote.
Yes, 2020, you know, and this is also Black History Month. I tell people all the time, the best way to celebrate Black history is to make some more history. And we can make history this year by getting out that vote. We can make history this year to make sure that we're all counted in the United States Census. These are two important issues, but getting out that vote. And the black vote is going to be determinative, not only who's the next president of the United States, but also members of Congress, state legislatures, local elections. It all impacts and will impact our quality of life. And I'm so proud of the National Black Newspapers, the National Association of Black Publishers. I represent the NNPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and I'm glad you are doing that segment on missing black girls. Yeah. Very proud of Stacey Brown, BlackPressUSA.com, for that focus. 64,000 sisters missing. You know, everything should pause until we find our missing black girls. So yes, the black vote is going to be the pivotal, determinative vote in the 2020 elections.
Very good. Hey, would you stay with me for a little bit and come back to the next segment? Okay, we'll be back with more right after this. More of Dr. Ben Chavis coming up next. Back now with more from my good friend, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. And, you know, you were saying in our earlier segment that it is February. It's the Black History Month. It's also the launch of the Black News Channel and the Kelly Wright Show debuting on that. Tell me, if you will, how important it is to have, well, first of all, why have a Black News Channel?
Well, I think having a Black News Channel is vital, not only here in the United States of America, but all over the world. The views, the opinions, and the courage and the striving for excellence that black people do all over the world needs to be covered. And quite frankly, mainstream news tends to ignore the vital news that affects our quality of life. So I thank J.C. Watts, I thank you, Kelly Wright, for the Black News Channel, for the Kelly Wright Show. And I want you to know that the National Newspaper Publishers Association, we're going to support you. In fact, we are going to work out this alliance.
You're already doing it. We're working it out
between the Black News Channel and the NNPA. But I really believe that black history is important not only for black people, but for all of humanity. Our contributions not only improve the quality of life for our own people, but our contributions improve the quality of life for all people, not only in America, but throughout the world.
Absolutely. And when you factor in that important component that what we've given has contributed to society, it's important to recognize and acknowledge our contributions and our accomplishments. I want to talk about some of your personal contributions and accomplishments going back to your past. First of all, you grew up in a home that really exemplified education and involvement and service. And so at the age of 14, you were actually working with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's right. I got my NAACP card when I was 12 years old. By the time I was 14, I was on the staff of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference led by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was so proud. I was still in high school. I was the editor of my newspaper at Maripotta High, the Maripotta Gazette, and not only I learned how to write, I wrote for the Carolina Times, which is one of the black-owned newspapers in North Carolina. So I grew up in the civil rights movement. It's my whole life. And as I look back over the last 60, 70 years, I think we've made great progress. A lot of times we tend to only see what we have not done rather than to focus on what we have accomplished. And because we've accomplished so much, again, make some more black history during this Black History Month. But for me, it's not only February, all 12 months. Every month ought to be Black History Month.
365 days a
Every
year.
day ought to be Black History Day. And here on the Black News Channel, that's what we're going to cover.
We are indeed, and on the Kelly Wright Show, you'll be a frequent guest, of course, and I always welcome you because of the bond that we have in moving the ball forward and not looking behind, except to learn from it, to make sense of our present and hope for our future. Having said that, you were echoing something that is very near and dear to me. That's your sentiment for striving for excellence.
Yes.
It's important that we continue to strive for excellence. So you've worked with the hip hop generation. How are you seeing our young people today make that point and live that out in striving for excellence?
That's a great question, particularly for all the millennials that are listening to this program. I think our young people today, Kelly, are the best, the most intelligent, the most creative generation of Black youth we've ever been blessed to witness. However, there's so much discouragement out there. Our young people need encouragement. I want them to know that our generation not only supports them, but we're going to lift them up. You know, we need more Rosa Parks. We need more Fannie Lou Hamers. We need more Martin Luther King Jr.'s. We need more Malcolm X. We need more Medgar Evers. We need more of our freedom fighters. We need a new generation. And I think that if our young people get the right information and the right encouragement, there's no question they will strive for excellence. Not only strive for it, they will attain excellence in sports, in entertainment, but also in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We have great scientists, budding scientists. So I know you got about the news today about the coronavirus. I think our Black scientists are going to help solve that virus.
Indeed, and there are many working at the CDC who are Black scientists and epidemiologists working on the coronavirus. Dr. Ben Chavis.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you. At the top of this show, we talked about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his impassioned sermon about the drum major instinct. Dr. King once said that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. He also wanted to say that hate cannot drive out hatred, only love can do that. And he also basically stated that the time is always right to do what is right. In the media, we have to take time out to examine ourselves and take the time out to do what is right, to spread light in darkness and to spread love where there's hate. That's what the Kelly Wright Show is all about. And as we leave you tonight, we say that you've been righted and ignited to spread love, freedom, and peace. Therefore, we invite you to get on board and join the love train. Here's a song from my latest album entitled by the same name, The Love Train. Come on and join the BNC Love Train on the Kelly Wright Show. Peace out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your friendly conductor. All aboard the Love Train.
All aboard!
The love train, the love train, the love train. If you don't feel the groove inside, give a little
Come on,
time,
come on,
rhythm will find.
all aboard.
The love train, the love
Let me break it down for you like this.
The rhythm of love is easy to find if you're listening. The color of light isn't red, black, or white, but it's crimson. We all bleed the same.
If you don't feel the groove inside,
If you don't feel the groove, it's alright. Just give it time, give it time. Come on, y'all. Get on board. Mankind won't survive if our hearts beat inside a hateful rhythm. You see, love isn't bought, but comes with a price of forgiveness, and we all bleed the same. Yeah. If you don't feel it now, just wait. It's coming on, the love train. Just give it time, give it time. Get on board. That means you and you
on the love train.
get on board.
All creeds and colors,
brothers
all sisters and
and
brothers
sisters,
on the love train.
get on board the love train. Everyone's invited. We're all united on the love train. Get on board. All creeds and colors, my sisters and brothers, get on board on the love train. Woo-hoo!
If you don't feel the
Yeah.
groove inside, give a little
Yeah.
time, the rhythm will find.
It's alright,
Love train,
just give it time.
love train, love train.
Keep on marching on,
The groove inside,
keep on being strong. Get on board the love train, love train.
love train, love.
Let's spread some love, 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 love. Oh, on the love train, y'all. Hey.